So,
Too skinny.
You know, and the thing
so how
about,
you define BMI is your weight in kilograms divided by your height squared.
oh, that's good. The thing about obesity too is, at least when I was a kid, we never saw obese people. It's only been in the last, 10, 20 years?
I was obese as a kid.
You were.
I was. When I first started doing macrobiotics, I weighed 150 pounds.
That doesn't sound
I was-
so obese.
But on somebody that's only 5'3",
Yeah.
it is.
So how much are you
When I
now?
was in the 6th grade, I weighed 130 pounds.
Huh.
I was like
Wow.
twice as big this way as I was this way.
How much do you weigh
I
now?
am 30 or
Right now I weigh
more.
99.
Oh, you do?
I do.
So I was obese.
Last time you saw
30
me
pounds?
when I was here,
The
I was
BMI.
down
The
below
BMI
that.
Oh, the
of
BMI.
30 or more.
Oh,
No,
My
this
doctor
one says
said I should weigh 100.
normal weight it should be 18.5 to
120.
24.9.
No way.
25 to 29 is
When I
overweight.
lost down to 120, it felt
So
like
what-
30,
from
one
150,
obesity,
I lost
That's
30 pounds.
30 is obese.
But then when I
But it's
35 is
saying that
two.
BMI is a good thing to use as a gauge.
that's what they're using these days.
Below, wow,
30
so
pounds?
90.
But I've heard
No,
so many people tell me that
BMI
BMI
30.
oh,
Yeah.
BMI 30, okay.
So you have to, in other words, to calculate your
The way of the
BMI, you have to take your
Huh?
The
weight
way of the
in
world. I was
kilograms
Okay.
eating everything wrong.
and divide it
No,
by
no, why did
your
you
height
Height
in
when-
meters
99?
squared.
Well, Joe died last year.
And then you square it.
You could probably
So
find
So
it.
you take your height and you square it,
Oh, you square it first, and then you divide.
divide it into
Okay.
your mass,
And then
body
Okay.
mass.
You could probably find a website where you could just punch it right in there.
Right.
Oh,
So, that's that. So it's a very, and the thing is that I got another thing here, which I took off a financial website. This is put together by Credit Suisse, and I downloaded. What did I do? I made a. What's his name? No, that's lung disease. Let me find this thing. Where are we? It must be really recent. I just did it the other day. So I did it, and it was really interesting. You know what the one country which is the least, and this is actually not surprising. It's not surprising at all.
Or
The
The third
least.
world country.
Oh, BMI is bogus.
BMI is bogus?
completely bogus.
Is
It's
it?
completely bogus. This is an
Oh.
article on NPR. It shows
Oh.
you 10 reasons why BMI doesn't work. It says it's nonsensical.
yeah. Well, I thought it was nonsensical when I went to this place, this health exercise place, and they had me step on a scale, and then it told me what my BMI is.
Well, that's did you do it with the barefoot?
I don't remember. I stepped
If you
on
do
a
it with the
scale.
barefoot, they have scales now that can tell you what your BMI is just by. There's something to do with your.
Just seems so weird.
Yeah, anyway, so I think the best thing to do is to take that Metropolitan Life Insurance Company's actual tables. They have a website. It's not current, 1999, and I think that's what the insurance companies use to determine what your ideal weight should be, as I said, defined as wearing shoes and wearing your household clothes. Okay, so I got this list here.
That's crazy. They say wearing shoes. Shoes vary so much in weight.
All right, so number least, this is prevalence of obesity among adults, 2009. This is obesity, not just overweight.
Yeah.
United States, 33.8. Mexico, 30.
1 in 3.
New Zealand, 26.5. Chile, 25.1.
Wow.
And there was the same four as were there
Yeah.
before. United Kingdom's a little bit lower down. Canada and Australia are above the United Kingdom. But, and this is not surprising, the least of all the countries here, there's probably about 50 or 60 countries here, India. 2.1 of the population percent are.
And what is it Cora, like in China and Japan?
Well, Indonesia is 2.4, China's 2.9, Korea's 3.8, and Japan is 3.9. Then it shoots up when you get to Europe.
Chinese always seem so chubby.
They do?
Yeah. At
Oh, that was
least maybe
same
it's
as-
just the American Chinese.
This is just obese, not overweight, okay? Let's not talk about overweight.
Mm.
Well, it's mostly since the Western diet was introduced over there. You
But
know,
a
they
lot of,
were-
I've seen a lot that
until
have come, yeah.
They started having Kentucky Fried Chicken and
Maybe.
McDonald's
Well, they
and all
got
that
all
stuff
that,
over
sure, they
there.
got tons of McDonald's over there, and Wendy's,
One of
and
the
Kentucky
biggest.
Fried, and Subway. You know the biggest franchise, fast food franchise in the world is
KFC?
Subway.
Subway?
Oh, so.
Wow, that started in my hometown when I was a teenager,
Wow.
in Milford, Connecticut.
Right.
One of the
So-
McDonald's in
You're trying to
China
fame.
actually holds 3,000 people. It's 3 stories.
Wow.
Wow,
It's probably jammed,
jammed
too.
Yeah.
the way
So I
they-
mean, they've got
It's huge over there.
They
so
really
people-
embrace. You have to realize in China, there's 1.2 million people there, and there's 1.2 billion people in China, and there are 680 million pigs. That's their number one meat is pork.
Pork,
They love
yeah.
pork.
Oh,
So there's a half a pig for every person in China.
Yeah, see, I always think of them as being squat and wide. I mean, even before, like McDonald's and things like that.
Well, 'cause those
That's
Sunni
sumo
wrestlers,
wrestler,
right?
yeah.
See, I was
I'm
thinking
not-
of
not
being
thinking
small
of
and
I'm just
skinny,
thinking of-
slim.
No, Chinese.
No,
are
they're
Thinking
not.
of the women, or
Chinese-
thinking of the men?
Traditionally, they
The
were.
fact of the matter is that because the rest of the world aspires after the American dream, so-called, they want to be like American. So they're going to want to have meat and sugar, because the intelligentsia of the world do actually think that going from a grain-based, whole grain-based diet to a meat-based diet is an improvement in your diet. They actually think that.
You know, there's a country in Africa where, obviously a poor country, and everybody's very slim or skinny, and you know the men. Oh, so being big and being overweight is a sign of that you've got wealth and that you're well-to-do. So the men prefer women who are large, and so what culturally what the families do is they overfeed the girls, and so they become obese at a very young age. And it's really sad because most of the young women in this country, they're in wheelchairs. They can't even stand up and walk by age 6
In that country?
because they're so big.
Oh,
Because
goodness.
they just the family wants to make sure that the daughter is going to have a life and is going to be married and have a family, and the men only want the women who are obese.
Wow.
Isn't that intense? And so the government's trying to change things, but you know, cultural attitudes are hard to break.
Well, yeah, I mean, the World Health Organization, no, the United Nations put out a report last year, or maybe it was even at the beginning of this year, that they suggested strongly to the governments of the world to start implementing policies that would reduce meat consumption.
Mm.
You know, well, good luck with that.
Mhm.
Hey, and did you hear that Kaiser Permanente now endorses a plant-based diet?
Mhm.
Kaiser Permanente,
Wow.
big giant. And that has something to do with Larry Cushy.
Yeah, right.
His name was in the paper in the article. But that's
Right.
pretty remarkable.
It is. Yeah, because that's pretty
His
incredible.
name is in what paper?
Yeah. Hmm?
His name is in what
Is
paper?
there
It
a
was in the
Kaiser
Chronicle.
Nevada?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can probably search for it.
Even
All
though
right,
they
so-
give up, we're still doing good things.
As far as this obesity problem goes, one of the characteristics of obesity is that the average American adult carries around in their intestines 4.5 pounds by weight of bacteria. All right, so that's why we get this puffiness, this swollen bloatedness here. And of course it can be more, that's average. I mean, it's just average. And of course I don't have any at all, so that means there's a lot of people that can, and you don't, and so forth. So a lot of people are carrying more than 4.5 pounds by weight. And it turns out in terms of number, the number of bacteria in the intestines are more than the number of cells in your body. And these are all noxious bacteria. So we have to assume that if we haven't done the anti-parasite remedy, that we still have parasites in our intestines. And they may not only be limited to bacteria and viruses, but they also will include worms, spirochetes, amoeba, paramecium, chlorella, Giardia, all of them. Candida. Candida is a major problem with people. So you have to do the Candida crunch. Now I've got to tell you the story about Candida crunch. I called it the anti-parasite remedy. So I had this lady I was counseling her, and she was a parent of the Waldorf school that my kids went to, and that was her condition, chronic candidiasis. She had it like for 15 years. Yeah, that's a very sorry condition to have.
What was her main symptom?
Just, intestinal problems.
Okay.
And of course you get vaginal discharge, you get horrible smells coming out with your bowel movement. It's not very pleasant. Plus you get mood swings, depression associated with it.
Everybody's walking around with it.
Yeah, they are. It's endemic. It really is endemic. So I counseled her and I said, I told her about the dietary recommendations that I have in the ginger compress and daikon baths and whatnot. And then I saw her for a follow-up 4 months later, and she'd made a lot of improvement, but she was still overweight. And I said, you still got to lose weight, so maybe you should maybe wait a couple of months and do the ginger compress. And I never saw her again for a follow-up. But one day, about 6 months, 8 months later, I was going to the school to pick up my kids from school in the afternoon, and I'm driving in the parking lot and I see her. And I look at her and I said, what the bloody hell happened to you? I mean, I was just, my jaw just dropped through the floor because she was so thin. She just slimmed down. She looked totally fantastic. I said, what the bloody hell happened to you? No, I knew her pretty well. And she said, Candida crunch. Because in the meantime, she had called me, and I said, well, I think it's about time you did the anti-parasite remedy. So she did it, and then when I saw her, she called it the Candida crunch. So it's her name.
Oh.
This thing. So this is the recipe. 3 cups of short grain brown rice, 2 cups of aduki beans, and 1 cup of unhulled brown sesame seeds.
Oh, how many cups of sesame seed?
One.
One.
So it's
Yeah.
3 to
3 to
2
1.
to 1,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
you put them all in a cast iron skillet. And you have to follow these instructions to the letter.
Mm-hmm.
You put them all in a cast iron skillet over medium heat, and you stir it constantly until the brown rice turns golden brown, which might take 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And you can make double that amount if you want, because it'll keep forever. I mean, literally forever.
Mm-hmm.
And you remove it from the skillet and put it somewhere to cool, like on a cookie sheet or cookie tray.
Spread out.
Right, and just let it cool. And once it's cool, you store it in a glass cookie jar. Or a, like a, what would we store it in?
Mason jar.
Yeah, like a mayonnaise jar, one of those things.